What is wellness?
I think of the image of wellness as like pure joy.
The important thing is for people to choose, like, what do you want to do?
Wellness are the things your grandmother told you to do.
When you really start to think about it, the answer feels more complicated. I'm Maya Feller, registered dietitian nutritionist and author.
And I'm Dr. Kavita Patel. We're the hosts of Well Now, Slate's new podcast on wellness.
Join us every Wednesday as we tackle that simple yet important question, what does it mean to be well?
Edit audio.
After my parents got divorced, I lived alone with my mom. We went from financially being, pretty comfortable to just broke ass in one fell swoop. Because what I didn't know was that both my parents overspent, and they were in, I think the financial term, the technical financial term is buttloads of debt. After that, I saw my mom cry because she couldn't buy me the sneakers I wanted. I saw her cry because she couldn't afford to take me to the newest, hottest pizza joint in our tiny little upstate New York town, Chuck E. Cheese. Oh, yeah. And when I got into the college of my dreams, I watched my mom, take a big drag on her cigarette as she said, well, let's see if we can figure out how to pay for this. I was like, what? Thank God or Buddha or the universe, we were just poor enough that I got all kinds of financial aid and I was able to escape to college. But what I noticed was creditors had begun calling her. And then she declared bankruptcy, which she did by yelling out, "Fuck the man and his credit card companies." Well, when she got remarried, her money problems became someone else's problem. And I have to be honest, I felt a huge sigh of relief. So today, my finances, they're stable. But experiencing years of instability and watching my mom crying because she couldn't pay a bill, that just doesn't get easily undone. So for me, money will always equal safety. And because of some generational fault line trauma, I'm probably never going to be in a place where I feel like I have enough money. Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, generational trauma and how it affects finances. Hello, everyone. I have got to tell you, I cannot wait to share today's episode with you. All right, Jennifer Palumbo, she's my pal. She's a writer, she's a comedian, and dare I say it, a freaking amazing lady. And when I was telling her about this podcast before season 1, she was like, ooh, you got to talk to my dad about how he grew up with money. And I think she was just, throwing it out there. But I have to say, anyone who knows me, you know that you just can't throw things out there around me because I'm going to take you up on that. And so I only heard a couple of bits about Arnold's childhood and his relationship with money and how it affected him and his life and parenting. And I was like, yeah, we're going to need to book this as soon as possible. And also I'm going to need you, Jennifer, to be on there and talk about family patterns. Thanks. And so we did. And the result, 1, an incredible interview. 2, I now love Arnold as much as Jennifer. I mean, he is a smart cookie and you are going to love both of them. So without further ado, here is Jennifer and her pops Arnold.
My name is Arnold Palumbo, and I wanted to talk about how I grew up. And I'm 78 years old, just became 78, and I look much younger. But how it affected me from that early age, almost till now. I mean, you'd think by now I should be over it, but it affected me and affected how I raised my children, my idiosyncrasies, if you want to use that word, based on
a good word.
The problem I had as a kid, how it affected their life, and it still affects me to this day.
Yeah.
There's different things I do that don't make sense.
Well, and we should tell the audience that we actually have your daughter, Jennifer, here. Say hi, Jennifer.
Hello. I can vouch for all of this. It's actually very interesting because I think it's such a unique situation that my father grew up in, yet I'm sure it'll be relatable, where money was always an issue. Mm-hmm. And the thing that prompted this whole conversation was something my dad said to me how he just couldn't wait to get out of the house so his money would be his own.
Let's get right into that. Talk to me, Arnold.
Yeah, it was money, but it was more. My father was a good man. He helped a lot of people. He worked on the docks in Brooklyn. You could tell by my accent. And
Right.
and he helped a lot of people get jobs in the union. He was a union person, but he had a sickness, and it was gambling. I think my earliest memory is when I was maybe 12 or 13 that he was going to have to leave the house because
Like as in your mom was booting him out?
no, because the loan sharks were looking for him.
Oh,
So
shit.
he would call it hitting a hole where he couldn't borrow any more money, and they were looking for him. And they had taken me, it's hard to remember, but taken me like to a little bank where I had a little account and took the money out of. And then
They took your money.
they took my money, but it was peanuts. It wasn't a lot of money, but I didn't want him to leave the house. Of course, we loved them. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but I'll try.
Oh, it's okay, Arnold.
And then later on, I earned money. I was working from when I was like 12, 13 at a butcher shop. And that was the key. And I would listen to him on the phone sometimes make these bets with the bookie. And he was really bright with numbers because I don't know if I go off on tangent, but he used to do all the income tax for all the Italian people in the neighborhood. They didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And he would just take their name and make up stuff. He would make up household finance, union dues. He would say how much money you want to get back, and he would make up children that they didn't have. So he was really good with numbers.
That's why I write fiction.
He was good with working the system,
Yeah,
too.
and I had a sister, Roseanne, who I never saw to this day. So, I mean,
It's not a real person.
No, it wasn't real.
Roseanne isn't real. Yeah.
Oh, like a sister for the tax forms.
Yeah. I think that he even claimed the dog as a person.
Well, once the computers and that started coming in, he had to get rid of that daughter. But
she moved away.
The point, I think, was that I didn't want him to leave the house. So anytime he hit these holes, he would borrow money from other people. I don't know if you know how loan sharking works, but it's ridiculous how they take the interest and put you in such a position that you can't pay. So when I met my wife and we started dating, that was my thing. I wanted to get out of the house so they couldn't take my money. I never did give them money for once I was married.
Did they ever ask?
No, they never did ask. But my older brother did give my father money later on, because to this day, my father died in 1970. My brother will mention occasionally he still owes him $700.
So he never got better. He never got his gambling under control.
He did get better once he left that job, because that job, that's all they talked about was gambling. Once he retired, my brother got him a job as a guard in the college, Brooklyn College. He gambled, but not as much. He didn't hit these holes. And, you talk about how what he did affected my life. He was affected as a kid.
Yeah.
He was put in an orphanage when he was I found this out later, like he was 10 years old. Now, this is 1914 he was born. So 1924, 10 years old, his mother put him in an orphanage and left the father. She took the other 3 kids and she left him with his older brother and him and his Uncle Tony in an orphanage. And he used to moan for her his whole life. Mom, Mom.
But then Uncle Tony, who was with my grandfather in the orphanage, developed a stutter. Just the two of them, while their siblings were with their mom, were in this orphanage. And I said to Dad, I always wondered if my grandfather had a gambling issue because he felt like he didn't deserve to have comfort or money.
Well, because she didn't give up all her kids. She gave up 2 of them.
Yeah.
And that's got to leave a mark.
But at a certain point, shouldn't you get over it? And we had a nice life when I was married. We had a nice house, a nice car. We went on good vacations. But I would do some weird stuff with money where I was always aware of how much money I had in my pocket. I would drive Jennifer and my daughter Nadine crazy if they had one cookie and they put it on 4 paper plates.
The paper plates was a big Because there were
Because of the
times.
waste and the cost.
Do you remember there was one time? So we had all these paper plates, and I think I had a bean burrito. I swear I have a point. And I'm anal in other ways. Like I don't like things to be messy.
Yeah.
So I had 2 plates for this bean burrito. I still remember this, which is insane. And so because the bean got all over the top plate, I took the bottom plate and put it on top of it so you didn't have to see the beans in the garbage because I'm weird.
Yeah.
So my father, Dad, I don't know if you remember this, he looks in the garbage and sees a clean plate. And you took it out and put it back.
Well, you know what's funny is you said something earlier. You said, at a certain age, shouldn't you have been over it? But you started off by talking about, I'm 78 and I'm still not over it. Like these are ingrained things that are handed to you because it's all tied to, like someone was literally taking your money when you were a kid.
Yeah. And that's what you think you should be able to get over. But even now, she's talking about the plate. If I see a plate that's very not dirty at all, I'll take it out and put a sandwich on it or something. Yeah. And I have a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, that's what I told Robin. One thing that I wanted to ask you, the thing that interests me that I don't understand about you is he's saved. I mean, you know what he said to me about money once? He goes, there's 2 words you should get out of your vocabulary. It's only.
That's right.
It's only $1. It's only $5. He's like, don't ever say that. And Nadine and I, that's my sister, when we graduated high school and went to college, everything was paid for. He would take confirmation money, birthday money, put it in this account. And then we opened a joint checking account when we went to college. So people thought I was married to my father because it was Arnold Palumbo and Jennifer Palumbo on the checking account. I have friends who are still paying off their college loans. And my sister and I never really had to deal with that because he saved up so much.
Right.
But my question is, because he has saved so much, he, from what I understand, I mean, not that we are sitting around talking about what he has in his accounts, has a good amount of money.
Right.
So what I don't understand is if you actually have the money now, why are you
She's right. Thank God I became an air traffic controller. I became a manager. I made very good money. I have enough money. I mean, I buy a $50,000, $60,000 car, yet here's some of the things that I did that don't make sense.
So you do allow yourself to spend some money. You don't you don't live like you're in poverty.
It doesn't bother me to spend money or spend big money. It's just that sometimes little money or the waste of it bothers me.
Yeah.
My wife had a procedure at the doctor's office. They told me at 1:30 she was going to be out of the procedure. So I went across the street. There was a Dunkin' Donut there. I bought a big cup of coffee for her, went back. 1:30, she wasn't out. 2 o'clock, she wasn't out. 2:30, and it bothered me that I bought that coffee and wasted the money. So I went back to Dunkin' Donut. Here I am making $180,000 a year. I went back to Dunkin' Donut and said, I think there's something wrong with the coffee.
No.
To save $250 or
It's like you have a little bit of your dad's sort of scam persona in there too. Like you didn't just get the panic, but you got a little of the let's work the system.
Definitely I do. My older brother and I, we have to sometimes beat the system.
All right, people, raise your hand if you have ever been personally exhausted by email, right? Same, friend, same. We're all so constantly inundated with email. And if you're like me, going through your inbox becomes less about responding to everything and more about just finding a way to keep tabs on the messages that really matter, like the ones from the school telling me my kids are in trouble that I get all the time. Anyway, that's where SaneBox comes in. Think of it as an EMT for your email. As messages flow in, SaneBox does the triage for you, sifting only the important emails in your inbox and directing all the other distracting stuff, you know what I'm talking about, into your Sane Later folder. So you know what messages you need to pay attention to now and what stuff you can get to like eventually after maybe a nap or, I don't know, a cocktail. It also, and I know I'm waxing poetically, but it has some very handy features like the sane black hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders that you never want to hear from again. Bye, friend. Oh, and it also has sane reminders to ping you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. I mean, nothing like having to follow up on your follow-up, am I right? All right, best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone anywhere you check your email. I mean, come on. See how SaneBox can magically remove distractions from your inbox with a free 2-week trial. That's a deal. Visit sanebox.com/well today to start your trial, and you're going to get a $25 credit. That's sanebox.com/WELL. Go ahead, folks, get it. So I have to ask the question of like, Arnold, what do you say that you came out of from your parents that is really good, and what that you came out with that's bad that you are handing forward besides just like idiosyncrasies? Like, can you like say it clear? Like, do you feel like is money a safety issue, or is it just like you have like this hair trigger response to waste?
I think it is partly the waste, that part of it. Even if I buy something where I think I wasn't treated fairly, that bothers me, and I have to react to it.
Do you think it was because you felt like you weren't treated fairly around money?
I think so. As a kid, that was the big issue. I always know how much I have in accounts. I always saved. I saved.
And if you left change around the house?
Just to have that security, I think.
He would take it.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Like if I left quarters or dollars out, he would be like, oh, that's probably mine, and take it and put it in his drawer.
That's probably mine.
Well, I need that security that I have that.
Yeah.
And I'll, even now I'll think about, well, what my budget's going to be this month. But then it's that cheapness. I don't know if it's cheapness as much as a ridiculous.
It sounds like it's more like a panic. It sounds like there's like a real safety conversation underneath it. Like if you the fact you're taking your 5-year-old's quarters because you just might need it is like, that's not logical.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not rational. That's something else is happening. Someone else is in the driver's seat when that's going on.
Yeah. And again, I think I'm better than I was, but I think to this day, there'll be times when I catch myself doing something that doesn't make sense.
Well, I want to ask Jennifer at this point a question. Like, how did this translate to how you were raised and how you felt about money and where you ended up because of generational? I mean, it's generational trauma, really.
What's funny is when we moved from New Jersey to Long Island, it was pretty affluent, don't you think, Dad?
It was,
at the time,
it was.
And we were not really affluent. I mean, not at the time when we first moved there. Two of my best friends, like. One, her father was a lawyer, and the other one was a dentist. And I would go shopping with them, like, in junior high or whatever. And they, Naomi would get like $70, Deb would get $100, and my dad would give me $5. Yeah. And I would just walk through the mall. And I wasn't bitter about it, but it felt weird because here they're buying sweaters, Benetton sweaters, and all this stuff. I would save the money for when we would go to McDonald's and eat. It's weird. Like, in a way, I'm kind of glad we were raised that way.
Yeah.
Because I think other people don't really appreciate money as much as
I
my
bet
sister and I
bet
do.
you both have big appreciation for money.
Yeah. Well, and, and I don't think my husband would mind if I said this, but his mother had inherited this huge trust fund. And she basically kind of didn't manage it well and sort of pissed it away. And Mike said to me, imagine if your dad got that trust fund. It would be probably $2 million.
Oh, my God. It'd be like 4 times the amount.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, because he's such a saver. If you don't, like, if I would go to the mall, I don't need more than $5.
Right.
You don't need to buy anything. You're just going for the social aspect and, So I do think we're very respectful of money and we appreciate it. In terms of the bad, I think I just worry about it more than most people. And my husband sometimes doesn't understand, like, I'm just going to throw out a random number. Say we have $60,000 in the checking account.
Yeah.
And we pay a couple of things and it's now like maybe
52.
Yeah, 52. I'll be like, oh, we got to really watch our spending.
Yeah. We got to get it back to 60.
Yeah. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, we have 52. Like, that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
But when I start seeing the number go down and not coming back up,
yeah,
then I'm like, okay, I've got to make my own soap, sew my own clothes. Like sometimes I do think I'm penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll start being like, we can't order in anymore, but it's really it's not that much of a difference, but I'll start worrying because it's going down.
But I do think that what's coming up for both of you, and I'm thinking of the same thing for myself, is like when there's the safety thing, these actions aren't logical. Like when the flat screen TVs first came out, I had decided, because it's like the decision to splurge on myself is hard, but I had made this decision I was going to buy when it was like $4,000. And then the guy was trying to sell me like the nice cable. And I was like, oh no, bro. Like I was going to buy the $4.99 cable. And Mary pulled me aside. She said, baby, you just spent $4,000 on a television. She's like, buy the good cable. And I was just like, right. But that's not logical. It's just like that was a bridge too far. And I feel like you both have that in common, that like not logical triggered, like I'm taking a plate out of the garbage kind of thinking.
I think both my daughters are generous, much more than I was.
Oh, yeah.
With social things, with gifts, with stuff like that. And I think my wife, she didn't come from money, but she's very generous.
Did that help you?
Yeah, it helped me grow up.
Well, I want to ask you, at the top, you said it still affects me. I'm curious. It's kind of like a twofold question. Like if you, with your wisdom and your wife's help today, what would you do differently? Like maybe with your kids, but also like what, you're 78, but you got years in front of you. What would you want to do differently or be better about? What growth would you want to see for yourself? Like if you knew you've got 3 years before you kick it, or 13 or 30, what would you want to do differently during that last time?
I think it's the mental thing. It's the concern about money in my head, where I'll try to calculate, well, this is how much I have in the checking account, my bills this month, where it's not a problem. I always have more money now than I'll ever need in my lifetime.
Well, if you need another daughter, I'm around. Just FYI, BT dubs.
Yeah, and that, I hope that didn't sound bragging. That's just a fact. That's just a fact, So, and I like that. I like the idea that they'll have this big inheritance.
Yeah.
And my main thing is I want, if I pass before my wife, that she doesn't have to worry about anything. Yeah. That she has a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money. That she has a lifestyle that she could maintain right now. Yeah. Although the way she spends money, I'm not sure if that'll work. No, I'm teasing. But she needs money to live if I'm gone, that's for sure. So
I do think, honestly, like it reminds me of like my wife used to be a smoker, and she talked about all the time as a smoker that she'd spend at work mentally going, okay, well, if I finish this job, I can go outside for 15 minutes to smoke. And then I can, like that, like constantly thinking about, well, when we're done talking, I can go smoke. And just you're not present when you're doing all that. And I feel like that's the same kind of thing. Like maybe you're not present when you're running through how much money is in your checking account, and you don't need to be. And you could be missing moments, like maybe working toward that freedom.
I think you're exactly right. 100%. That's the issue. That's the issue to this day. Not as bad as it was, but that's the issue, is the thinking about it, trying to figure it out. Right now, I know I have about 12 singles in my pocket. And I'm saying to myself, when I bowl tomorrow, I'm going to give him the 8 singles and things like that. To this day, it's not
That's so much space in your brain. That's so much time.
Yeah. And it just amazes me. And I do think it kind of has, I don't know if this is good or bad. My husband, when I do the laundry, constantly leaves money in his pockets. So I'm always cleaning money.
Yeah.
Or he'll leave like $20 somewhere. And every time I see that, I'm amazed, because that would never happen in my house growing up. My dad would never leave money in his pants pocket.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And Mike, he's gotten much better with money in the last couple of years. When I first met him, it wasn't great. I think because, again, they had this trust fund.
Yeah.
They didn't
really
have...
the exact opposite. You're living into this trust fund. It's going to come down to me. Right. I don't need to worry.
Yeah. They didn't have the same respect for money, and they always felt like they were going to fall back on it. And what happened was, right when Mike and I got married, because his brother and him were on the trust, so when their mom passed away, it would go to them. They would get financial statements.
Right.
and they got a financial statement and saw how low it was.
Oh.
And I think that's when both him and his brother were like, oh, we're
shit.
not going to have this.
Yeah.
And that's when Mike started to change about money.
Yeah.
Because they really thought, oh, I have a retirement. I have this huge trust fund that my grandfather left for us. And I remember the three of them talking like, what the hell happened? And that's when he started taking it more seriously. But growing up, he didn't have the same respect.
He didn't have to, yeah.
Right. But I'm still, even Mike does it all the time, I'm always like, my dad would never leave a 20
Yeah.
in his jean pocket.
Arnold, I wonder if, like, remember back in the day when someone was trying to quit smoking and they would have like a rubber band around the wrist, and then if you wanted to smoke, you would like snap yourself, and the whole idea was like, but I don't want you to snap yourself. But I'm wondering if there's like some kind of like mantra that you can pick up that's like, you know, I have enough money, everything's okay. Like, so when you start, anytime your brain mentally starts thinking like, oh, I got 8 singles, and I'm gonna give 8 to the bowling alley, and I got 4 that I'm gonna put back in the. Anytime you do that, you stop yourself and you say, Arnold, I have enough money, and just start as a practice and see if any freedom comes from that.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
The mantra is my wife. My wife will tell me, you know, don't be ridiculous. Just forget it. It's only $2 or it's only $4.
But she can't do it if it's in your head.
I know. Those are the times. But it's not as bad as it once was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better at this thing. Maybe by 79, I'll get it better. And, yeah.
Well, I also wonder too if at some point you just learn to live with your demons or your things, and you peacefully coexist like a part inside of you.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and I always try not to tell him, I don't know, if we're doing construction or something like that. Sometimes he'll be like, how much is it?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, it's fine.
I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I'm not telling you because, and it may be a number he's fine with, but I don't want him to
obsess over it or worry about it. Or
so I'll kind of, there have been a couple of things like that where I'll be like, we got it. It's good. Just not get into it.
Sometimes with me, it's not even whether you're buying a car or negotiating for something. I enjoy the give and take of that, of negotiating.
Yeah.
Maybe, again, it's the part about saving the money. But
well, you felt like you won.
But, you know, when you bought me the red Toyota car, we were buying it from this kid, and he said whatever price it was, my dad counter-offered. And the kid started thinking about it. And my dad goes, let me help you out here. I made you a counter offer. So you then make me another offer. And then we'll settle on something that we're both good about. So he like,
you were like coaching him on how to barter.
And well, I didn't want to beat anybody. I'm not looking, that was never that way.
If you were talking to someone who is like a young parent, because I feel like you did give your kids, and you also gave some random kid trying to buy a car, like you gave him money tips. So you have taken all the wonderful things that you learned from a bad situation and you've shared those. And I think that's really great. But what advice would you give to somebody who was a young parent so that maybe they can sidestep some of the panic, like how to teach without bringing in the trauma
or the fear?
The fear. Yeah.
I don't know if I have an answer to that, because with Jennifer and Nadine, when they were younger, I want them to save, to have enough money that money's not an issue, particularly with the children.
Yeah.
That if their kids need money down the road or college and all that, I want them to save. So I want them to be conscious of it, but not be a nut about it like I was on certain things.
I mean, I feel like you took a bad situation and you did manage to pull a lot of really good things out of it. Like you may have made peace with it. Like this is where it is.
Were you ever scared to gamble? Because you were worried you'd get addicted?
No, again, I didn't want to lose. I gambled, and I gambled sometimes big money, but I was winning at the time. I won $2,500, $3,000 a blackjack table a few times, but I didn't lose. If I lost, I didn't lose big. I just controlled that money. And as I was winning, I would put money aside.
I do that when I gamble. I have separate pockets. So I have what I'm willing to spend for the day, and then I take winnings and put them in a different pocket. And then when what I was willing to spend for the day is gone, it's done. Because I can't lose the money.
Right.
I can't go in there and lose $100.
And I would never borrow money to gamble. I mean, that to me is what did my father in. So I would never do that. But yeah, I don't like to lose big money.
Do you ever worry that now that you have that money and your kids and grandkids maybe have like grown up with money, that they're going to swing in the opposite direction?
Well, and I see that. I see that maybe with my grandson sometimes. And what Jennifer said before is what I tell him. Don't ever say it's only. But again, I know he has a good inheritance from both grandparents. But, and he seems like a good young man. But it just, sometimes the money, I think he's freer with it than I would be.
Is your sister, is she similar to you, or is she, because, sometimes people in opposition, like, become like wild spenders because they had no money. Did your sister come out similar to you?
I think she did. I mean, remember Mom went to like a psychic, and they said your older daughter will have money running through her hands and your younger daughter will hold on to it. I think that's what a psychic said. But I think we're similar. What I will say, and this definitely is my father inspired, we went to Target last weekend, and my sons are 7 and 10, and they wanted a toy. And so I said, you can pick out a toy, but it has to be under $10. And Matthew was looking at all the prices, figuring out what was the one he could get the most for $10. And I said to my husband, I said, this is a really good exercise.
Yeah.
Because it makes them think about what we're spending.
Yeah.
And not that my husband and I aren't, I mean, we're fine, we're comfortable, we're not loaded, but that's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
Because I did grow up with that. Like
Yeah.
I said, my two friends, they constantly had extravagant parties and all this stuff, and I never did. And at the time, I think I felt a little uncomfortable about it. But when I got older, I realized how much more I appreciated it.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike and I busted our ass to save up money, to get good jobs. And I think if you don't come from money, if you get married and you have all this money, it's not the same accomplishment.
You don't
sense
have
of
the fear
accomplishment.
attached to it, and you don't have the accomplishment. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what do you think from this, like, you're passing on to your kids? Do you think about that? Are you scared about that?
I am a little nervous about it because I do still think my husband doesn't have the same respect for money as I do. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't think he worries about it enough. And I think he'll tell you I worry about it too much.
I think it's hilarious you write for Forbes.
I know.
Like, it's like, talk about, a setup.
I know. Well, and I don't know if it's that he doesn't have respect. It's like, I think it really is just that, again, I would never leave a $20 laying around.
Right.
So he doesn't have the same mentality. And I really want the boys to have a good life. Like, we do a lot of things, and I do splurge on when we do something.
Yeah.
Because I had read an article about this, that when you spend money on experiences, that stays with you your whole life. And I really buy into that.
Yeah.
So whenever we've done vacations, I will spend more on that, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to take that for granted and think that that's the way it is for everybody.
Right.
And I worry about that because I'm a writer, I get invited to all these wonderful events. Like, we got invited to FAO Schwartz before they opened.
Ooh.
And the kids had this amazing time, and I didn't pay for it, obviously. But I don't...
They can't make that distinction that it's not paid for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want them to think that that's going to be their life automatically.
Yeah.
So I do worry
like
about...
sponsors sending you things, or you're getting to do cool things.
Because
like
I get all these free samples of stuff to review or whatever. And so I worry they're going to come off as spoiled.
Yeah. I worry about that too, as
Yeah.
a former poor kid.
Is the fear that they'll expect that for their future, or is the fear that having that now will somehow change their behavior?
I think it's the latter. I don't worry so much about them expecting it, but I don't want them to think they're entitled to it.
Yeah.
I worry about both my daughters, that they are comfortable. I think they are, and it's obvious that they're doing well, but I worry that they have enough savings. And Nadine and Jennifer both are aware of their money, and sort of some similarity to me, but not the nuttiness.
I would never take a paper plate out of the garbage.
That's growth. Well, I want to say this, Arnold. I want to say, first of all, just thank you for opening up and talking about, your past and being so open and forthright about all this. This is just a wonderful conversation. And I think you've really managed to take the best and leave the rest, as they say in 12-step world. Like, you really did in a lot of ways. And it seems like each generation is a little bit better in your family. And I think that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, that's true. I hope that's true. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm thankful that you just came and talked. And thank you, Jennifer, for serving up your dad to me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I always found it to be, I mean, if you literally talking about generational trauma, it goes all the way back
Yeah.
to the orphanage.
Yeah.
In 1924. You still feel the impact today. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's true.
No, it's really true.
Yeah.
And it just, because you could even
because of
see,
one woman's decision.
Yeah. But you can even see in the things that he does the same.
Yeah.
And the things that you do that are different. Like you're doing the difference because you want to get out of it, and you're doing the same because that worked. The only thing that I would say is sometimes it seems like you don't have a choice, and you're looking where you want some freedom and you want some choice. And I'd like a report back at 79 to hear if we got just a little bit more freedom. That's what I'd like to hear.
You have reached the well-adjusting expert of the day.
Hi, I'm Asia Evans, a licensed mental health counselor and financial therapist. I specifically focus on money, feelings, behaviors, your mindset, your relationship to your finances. And I think something that comes up for a lot of people when I start doing this work is what happens when I'm taking those not the best choices or financial, habits that might not be the best for us and integrating them into my own life. So I would say first is recognizing whether or not they are actually bad habits is the first thing. Sometimes it may not be the best idea for our money, but are we really prepared to label it a bad habit? So just recognizing, hey, am I overspending, but can I afford to overspend? So if you do recognize one that yes, these are bad habits and you don't want to be doing them anymore, let's look at the root cause of that. I think one thing with financial therapy is looking at why that felt like it was serving you now, even though it doesn't work for your money. And that really does look at the root. It served your family. Whatever was going on, those habits did serve your family. And now you have to decide how are you going to heal and move forward in a way that allows you to honor where you came from, but recognize that it might not be the best for you right now. So if you find yourself repeating some of the bad habits from your past, look at how you can start identifying the habits first, overspending, underspending, and deciding whether or not that is important for your life right now, because it might not be. A lot of that can be done, of course, with a financial therapist, but it can be done on your own too. But you have to be prepared for the emotions that are going to come up. It hurts to kind of let this go and to have experienced some of the things I experienced, but recognizing that you can do something different now. And how do you create those habits is going to be really important in terms of sticking to your financial goals and making it happen in a way that feels good for you. So how do you recognize a habit or, overthinking, ruminating about something that isn't really serving you anymore? Saving money, yes, it can be positive, but there's a certain level of underspending or hoarding your money that is not good for you. And I think that is coming from a place of fear and anxiety. And we have to acknowledge that that's the case. So telling to yourself, hey, I'm really worried about what's going to happen in my future. I'm really anxious about my money, and that's why I'm hoarding it. Being honest with yourself is going to be really, really important. We know that many people talk about habit loops, right? Like James Clear's book is super, super popular and everybody loves Atomic Habits. And we know that in the habit loop, there's usually a cue. What is the thing for you that is triggering you to do the next routine behavior? And once you decide that, hey, that routine behavior is not giving me the reward that I want, how do I replace it? So you're not necessarily always going to be able to replace the cue or the trigger point of what the habit is, but you can replace what you do next. So if you find that you get upset and you want to go spend money, you want to go straight to the computer and put things in your cart, what can we do instead? Let's walk away from the computer, put your phone down, you're going outside. That is going to become the new routine when you're upset. Identifying that you're upset and then doing something different. Now, I think it's really easy for me to say this out loud, of course, and in words, and super, super difficult in practice. This is going to take time. You are going to mess up, and that's okay. You have to allow yourself to change. You're breaking a habit and a structure of living that you've had for potential decades. So it could be going on a walk. It could be journaling. It could be calling a friend. What do you do that usually makes you feel better? It's so individual. So please do not expect that you are going to make this change right away, and be nice to yourself as you're trying to make it.
Before you all leave, I just have one more story about my new bestie, Arnold. So after the interview, Jennifer sent me a Marco Polo video because, that's how we do most of our keeping in touch. It's like a barrage of monologue videos that we send back and forth to each other. You can just imagine how chatty they are. Anyway, she said he called her after the interview, and Arnold said he loved the chat, but then he said, geez, I hope they don't think I deprived you. I mean, like, we took vacations and stuff, right? Remember? Which I just thought that was like the cutest thing ever, that Arnold was worried about that. And so, Arnold, here's what I have to say. Rest assured, we know you were an amazing dad. I mean, just the fact that you were willing to sit down and talk about the generational trauma with a willingness and an openness to the effects that it may have had, that just tells me everything that I need to know, which is you are the best. So thank you for sharing your story with the whole Well Adjusting audience. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And a huge thank you to Asia Evans for her financial therapy advice. I am telling you, there is something in there for everyone. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original, exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Thank you to Maria Passingham, Kathleen Speckert, and the whole Edit Audio team. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.